9 species of cassava.
Yeah, we tested Team 419 from IITA in Odo, and we piloted in Ilushi, Faro 44, Agane-Bude, Faro 44, and Warake, Faro 44. So they did so well, but we used funding from Fadama, additional finance.
Okay.
They did so well. It was a grant to the farmers. Then last year, 2019, we scaled up. In all of our pilots, we gave the farmers 1 hectares. In 2019, we scaled up. We did, in Igwarake and Igwomo, we did about 300 hectares. In Ilushi, we did about 100 hectares. We're going to do about 1,000 hectares in Ilushi, but by the time we finished, the river Niger overflew its bank and the whole land was flooded. Couldn't really do much.
Okay.
In Agane-Bude, we did about 300 hectares. And in Warake, we did about 200 hectares.
Of rice?
Of rice. Then in Usubenu, we did about 180 hectares of maize, and Sobe, we did about 745 hectares of maize.
No.
That was last year.
The cassava you were talking about, you mentioned IITA, International Institute of Tropical Agriculture. Edo State, Edo State. Now, do you buy directly from them, or there is an agent that is a go-between?
Well, they have, you don't buy, IITA don't sell to you directly.
Okay.
They have vendors that they supply and you buy from those vendors. But the species are original to them. They came up with the species through their research and development and looking for improved seedlings or improved stems for cassava.
So even as a state government, you cannot deal with IITA directly, is that what you're saying?
No, they don't sell. They point us in the direction where we can get with people that they produce and give to. And those people in turn sell to the state.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Now, what is the status of the state government's agric program?
Well, as at today, the state government have mainly concentrated in 4 major cash crops
And they are?
and 1 major tree crop. They are rice, maize, cassava, and soya beans.
Okay.
Then for the tree crop, we are concentrated in oil palm.
Okay.
So under the Agripreneur program, we have another program called the Edo State Oil Palm Program, ESOP,
Okay.
where the state government have committed to put about 250,000 hectares under cultivation in the next 5 years. And the first phase, which is just starting now, is 51,000 hectares in Uriom local government area, in Igobazua and Urunigbe area.
Okay.
And the investment required for that is about 91.3 billion. And when we launched it last year, the CBN committed to funding the would-be investors up to 68.9 billion, which is 75% of the investment required. And providing that the would-be investor would be able to produce, to demonstrate that they have capacity to fund their own project up to 25%.
Up to 25%.
Yeah. So the CBN will fund up to 75% directly to the investors, not through the state.
What about fishing? Because I recall that when we went round...
I was going there.
Yes.
I was going there.
Yes.
So that's in the area of crop production.
Yeah.
And we also extended to the area of aquaculture, where we have farmers that are producing catfish. We have a production center in ADP, where we have about 100 ponds with 100 fish farmers. That program was designed for the Libya returnees.
Really?
That program was designed, Mr. Governor, as part of his rehabilitation program for the Libya returnees.
Yeah.
Funded the entire process. First of all, sent them to training in IO farms, where they received training for about 90 days, after which he empowered them, gave them money to produce. If you recall, the last time we visited there, they were harvesting.
They were harvesting here.
They were harvesting, and the uptakers were there picking up their harvest. So that program in ADP was specifically for Libya returnees.
And how did they embrace it, considering where they were coming from?
Considering a lot of them were excited, according to them, their testimony to me was that now they are engaged, and if this becomes profitable, they will have no reason to attempt to travel by land or by sea to Europe anymore. So, and over time...
In search of greener pasture.
Yeah, search of greener pasture. That the reason they embarked on those dangerous missions were because they had nothing doing. And life was kind of glooming, and they didn't think there was hope, and they felt anywhere else was better than where they were. But with this, they are hopeful that they will see a brighter tomorrow. And the production they were harvesting the last time we were there was after about 4 months of cultivation.
Oh.
And in the course of the 4 months while they were producing, I took time to just show up unannounced, and I was very amazed and pleased at their dedication. At least it gave them something to do. They were there from sun up to sundown, and that I even got a sense of fulfillment, and which led me to appreciate the governor the more for thinking about these people who hitherto had lost hope yesterday, but today they have hope. So we also have a cluster in Ute Fish Farm, where we aggregated and funded about 90 farmers. And we also have a cluster in Obayato, where we also aggregated and funded about 100 farmers. And we also have a cluster in a place called Iyekoi, where we aggregated and funded about 100 farmers. And we have a cluster in a town called Uzea in Eastern Northeast local government, where Mr. Governor also funded about 40 fish farmers in a place called Echo. So that's for the aquaculture.
There was a place where we visited that the fish farmers were almost kissing your feet.
Ute.
No, there's another name. Temboga.
Temboga, yes. We have a place in Temboga, where Mr. Governor also aggregated 100 farmers and funded them for fish production. We also do animal husbandry. Mr. Governor, in 2019, funded about 135 farmers. Most of them got 1,000 broilers, while some got 500. So we had about a total of 135 farmers, and they were giving 125,000 birds.
Was it depending on the capacity?
The capacity of your poultry. And, we aggregated the farmers in about 11 clusters around Oredo, Ikpoboka, and Ego. And, so we tried to touch every facet of the sector, from the agric sector, from crop production to animal husbandry, aquaculture. Mr. Governor founded a piggery farm, I think our farm, and we are going to use it. Mr. Governor funded them to expand their pens, so that we can aggregate farmers, smallholder farmers, and the owners of the farm has been in piggery for about 20 years. So our would-be piggery farmers will we have hands-on learning experience, and eventually learn the skill of rearing pigs, and then branch out on their own.
Good. Now, what has been the response of farmers to this government's multifaceted agricultural intervention?
Like most of them testified when you visited some of the farms with me the other day, that when the program first started, they were skeptical.
Yeah.
So a lot of the doubting Thomases didn't participate.
Okay.
Now I can tell you that now that we have done it consistently for about 3 years now, everybody's scrambling to get a space. The only challenge we have now is that since we are operating in an irrigation deficient environment where we don't have irrigation, most of our production, they are rain fed. So the production cycle is short. So agriculture in Africa is time sensitive. So you have to get it right at the right time. Otherwise, when you miss it, if you don't plant when you're supposed to plant, and if you don't prepare the land when you're supposed to prepare the land and plant, and you miss it, you might be heading for a crash. So unfortunately, since, like I said, we are operating in an irrigation deficient environment and everything is time bound, we can't take on everybody that have indicated interest now. So we are just at this moment aggregating everybody, so that come December, by special grace of God, we'll now include them in our next year production.
Thank you very much. All right, when we come back, we are going to be talking about building capacity for storage and processing of agricultural produce. Please stay with us.
This is Ilushi. This is our second field initially. We call it Ilushi 2. Here we have 250 hectares of rice field. And the story is a bit different here. The governor, in his wisdom, decided that the state should take on some responsibility to get involved in the commercial farm, just to mitigate against food insecurity post-COVID-19 and during COVID-19. So this farm was not, we didn't aggregate farmers for this farm. What we did with this farm was to just farm it. At the end of the day, the state will take the farm. No, this land is actually rented. I'm glad you came with us to this farm so that you can see some of the things, experience some of the experiences that we have, that we go through in the course of trying to provide food security.
No man is God. Obaseki, our governor. Forward ever, backward never. Let's go further together.
Yeah, welcome back to the program, and we're still chatting with Joe Okojie, the essay on food security, forestry, and agriculture. Now, what is the status of the NASAL partnership, and how, have the farmers been able to benefit from this partnership?
Well, see, under the agripreneur program, the state clears a large contiguous space, and we aggregate farmers to come in and take portions, usually in 3 hectares, 4 hectares, and maximum of 5 hectares. So what we now do is to get, what we did was to partner with NISA for 2 primary reasons. One, to give us what is called CROG, Credit Risk Guarantee. CROG, what that means is that they are taking 75% of the risk and the state is taking 25% of the risk.
Oh, so
they guarantee the state funding up to 75%. Oh. 2, they provide us with a company that will give us extension support and technical support in that particular farm field. So when we fund the farm, we have extension agents that are providing technical support for the farmers present in the farm.
When you say technical support, are you talking about the tractors and co?
No, those ones, the land preparation and mechanization is a function that is provided by a different company. Okay. That company is agric. The state partnered. When we first started, we realized that if we are to farm at the scale that we are trying to farm, we didn't have the equipment in the States. I remember I had to go to Kano and I had to go to Kaduna to look for tractors. So booking tractors in those states, we essentially had to wait till they finish before their tractors came this year. So what Mr. Governor now did was to find a company that have expertise in mechanization, and a partner with the private sector guy, and they set up a mechanization hub at the ADP. So what he did, Mr. Governor, in partnership with the private sector guy, invested in tractors, buckets, boom sprayers, broadcasters, and harvesters. So that now takes care of the entire mechanization from crane to cradle for grains. Okay. For grains.
Yeah.
So we can still use those equipment for cassava, but cassava planters are different from the grains, rice and maize planters. And cassava harvesters are also different from rice and maize harvesters. So we still go out whenever we want to harvest cassava to source for harvesters, and whenever we want to plant to source for planters. Okay. But essentially, to answer your question, yes, specifically, is that the technical support that they provide is in terms of agronomical practices, in terms of extension support. Okay. So the farmers, what they are really required to do is to come in and work their farms. They work their farms and take a look at the crops, just to evaluate what they are doing. So if there's a portion that is not doing well, maybe the crop is turning yellow instead of green, you draw the attention of the extension agent in the farm, who will now tell you whether to apply more cassava 20-10-10 or apply urea, and he will guide you along those lines, and you do what you need to do, and the state will provide the funding for the labor to get it right.
Maybe they're also trying to protect their investment as well?
Exactly.
Okay.
Because they are taking the larger risk, more risk than the state is taking.
Okay. Now, what are the focus intervention areas under the scheme, and what efforts have gone into building capacity for storage and processing of this agricultural produce?
Well, I don't know if you've been to ADP in recent time. Mr. Governor is building warehouses that we plan to use for use as our food bank.
Okay.
To store whatever it is that we are producing now. The plan is for Mr. Governor to buy it and process it. He's setting up a rice mill in Ologbo at the industrial estate, at the industrial park. Attached to the rice mill, you are going to have storage facilities. So the rice that we are producing will be milled there. The mill is already here in Edo State. Okay. The rice will be milled there and stored there, because there's also a storage facility that we use as our food bank. So the governor is taking a lot of steps to make sure that he mitigates against food insecurity post-COVID-19 by building storage facilities and processing facilities. In terms of, the governor just funded with Danaher and another firm to build processing facility for the beds. The last production we had to sell off live. But what he wants to see going forward is that those beds are processed in the state and consumed in the state. Okay. Instead of selling them live to Lagos and bringing them back to Lagos to come and sell.
Out of Benin to come and sell after they have dressed them.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, there are, pockets of complaints that some farmers are not captured along in the process of disbursing some of these intervention funds. Now, in clear terms, can you explain how a typical farmer can cash in on these programs, and what are the requirements, and to whom do they go for them to be part of this program?
They can come to my office, which is in Government House. They don't have to know anybody. All they need is a name that matches a BVN, that matches a phone number. Those are the only three requirements. Their names, BVN, and a phone number. They don't have to know anybody. We are begging for farmers to come and register. We are collecting their database. So we are looking for a long time. We are looking for farmers. We had ads on the radio, TV, and the print media, begging farmers to come and participate in the program. Okay. Like I said earlier, even when we went to the clusters where they were all farmers, a lot of them opted not to participate. But now that they have seen that we have been consistent for 3 seasons now, 2018 when we did our pilot, 2019, and this is 2020. So like in our cooperative in Aganibude,
yes,
they have built up their credibility to the point that farmers in the immediate area now scramble to pay 5,000 naira to be part of the cooperative. So also is Warake. For you to be a member of that cooperative now, you have to pay, I think that one is like 3,000 naira.
Oh yeah?
And that's because we have done this consistently for 3 years.
Okay.
And they have seen farmers benefits year after year for the last 3 years. So just for some of the farmers out there that have not been participating, you don't have to know anybody. All you need to have is a name, BVN, and a valid phone number.
Okay.
And you have to open a bank account with Sterling Bank that will put you through a loan process. That's all that is required.
Okay. You see, when we chatted with the Commissioner for Agriculture, he did mention two categories of farmers: political farmers and the real farmers. Now, you see, you are having these complaints because they are saying that you have not been able to capture all of them, or they have not been able to come partake in the disbursement of these funds, because probably maybe some of them think that these funds are free. Now, how can you differentiate between these political farmers and the real farmers?
Well, I've been doing this for 3 years now, and I've been dealing directly with farmers. Initially,
Yes.
we captured everybody, but we now realize that the political farmers are not interested in the actual production. Rather, what they are interested in is access to the funds. A lot of them thought that there will be no actual production. Rather, you just go in there, it was another government largesse or political largesse. But the way I designed the agripreneur program was such that the funds are paid into your account. You see it, you get the alert, but there will be a lien on it. There will be a lien on it. You'll not be able to withdraw. So during sensitization, I would give you what is called an EOP, Economics of Production, that we all agree on. We meet twice. We first of all meet and go over the economics of production, and I give you a copy. If you can find a vendor that can sell any of the items cheaper than we have on the economics of production, you come back to me. When you come back, we all discuss it and we agree.
Okay.
So that economic of production, EOP, that you would have is what you will use to compare at the end of the day when we start production with what is being deducted from your account. If any amount is deducted that is not on your EOP, you call my office. And the way the program works is we negotiate with multinationals because we are buying in volume on behalf of the farmers. Then the multinational supplies to the farm the inputs, be it agrochemicals, be it fertilizer, be it improved seedlings.
Yeah.
At the point of supplying, we have a farm management structure that have a president, vice president, secretary, and a treasurer.
Okay.
So they will take the inputs into the warehouse in the farm and sign for it that they have received. It is that slip that the farmer, that the supplier, the vendor will use to request for his payment. So it is that slip that certifies that the farmers have received their input. Then the vendor gets paid.
Okay. Well organized.
Yeah, that's how the program works. The only part of the cash that we give to the farmers are funds for weeding, spraying herbicides, fertilizer application, and in the case of rice, bed scaring, because they have to pay for their labor directly.
Okay, like we saw in Agenibude.
Like you saw in Agenibude with different people in the farm. At the end of the day, the farmers have to pay those people helping them scare those beds. So those funds goes to them in cash for them to pay those people providing those services.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Joe Okojie is the special advisor to Governor Godwin Obaseki on agriculture, forestry, and food security. When we come back, we are going to be taking a look at the strong reforestation and, of course, the impact on the environment. Stay with us.
My name is Peace. Well, I'm among the youth farming in this project, this Wepa Farm project, hosted by the Governor Obaseki. We're into rice farm with loan and farm implements, farm input, the rice, seedlings, the land, which we are trying to put in place. We have a fair 5 hectare for rice farm. Though there's already money in my account released by the government. I just want to say thank you, and God bless you.
Obaseki, your governor, forward ever, backward never. Let's go further together. Godwin Obaseki, Obaseki.
You're welcome back to the program. Now, Mr. Okojie, in terms of area under cultivation, how much hectarage is under plantation development, and what are the future plans of the different investors in this sector?
Well, I mean, I mainly concentrated on areas where government have direct intervention to our farmers.
Yes. I'm sure you can marry it with the question.
Yeah, in terms of investment in the sector,
Yes.
If you recall, we have several investors that have brought in a lot of resources. A company like Files set up the nursery in Humde, and today they have enough in terms of oil palm they have enough to cultivate up to 8,000 hectares.
Yeah.
They have enough seedling to cultivate up to 8,000 hectares. I took you to Farmford's facility. When Farmford first came to the state,
Yes.
they were mainly interested in growing potato and doing potato chips and potato french fries, sweet potato, that is. Since then, because of the enabling environment that the state government have created, they've scaled up their investment. When I met with them and asked them if they could help us with poultry processing of broilers. This was early this year, before COVID-19. And they swung into action. The last time we went there, you saw how much investment they have, how much they have invested in the state. Just to mention a few. We have, like I told you earlier, there is a company that is building an ethanol plant in Ologbo. You know, that will offtake most of our cassava.
Yeah.
You know, funded by the CBN. And all of this, I would say that the agricultural sector in Edo has become the darling of most investors, especially in the area of cassava and oil palm. As it is today, the phase one of our oil palm, which is 51,000 hectares, I have over 18 would-be investors that have met the requirements to be a large oil palm estate developer, requiring a minimum of 10,000 hectares. Of course, even though the state government planned to put 250,000 hectares under cultivation in the next 5 years, we, however, want to do it in phases.
Okay.
And the first phase is the one that we are doing around Ologbo. I mean, we are doing around Uronigbe and Igobazua.
Okay.
You know, so I have a list of up to about 18 would-be investors that are scrambling to get a space there. You know, and it will take time for me to identify, do ground truthing, you know, because it's a process. We've done ground truthing for this. Ground truthing meaning you send out foresters, surveyors, GIS employees to go into the bush to verify that this land that we're about to allocate to the would-be investor is free of any encumbrance.
Okay.
And that the land has not already been allocated. Then, once we have been able to establish that, it's now captured and put into our land bank in the GIS, Edo GIS office.
Okay. Now, I think I will before we go into the reforestation program, there has been a message. Actually, the message has been beeping on my phone. It's coming from Morgan Noba. He says, "Sir, my question is, are we looking forward to food price reduction, notably in Edo State, with this agro policy?"
Our hope is that we'll be able to produce enough to make food cheaper for the Edo people. Of course, you know, it's demand that drives
supply.
If you, as we were taught in economics, I would say we are not producing enough to crash the price of the. Let's take rice for instance.
Yeah.
As much as we are producing, I still drive around and see imported rice. But we are producing, it's not enough. But if we continue to produce at the rate we are producing and we continue to scale up and open up more lands, my belief is that someday we'll be able to be self-sufficient in terms of what we require in terms of food, for us not to import anymore. My goal right now is for us to produce enough so that we'll be self-sufficient in our food supply.
The rice that you eat in your house, is it the one that you've produced?
Well, the one that I eat now is not. But when the ones that I produce was milled, that's what we consumed.
Okay. So now it's no longer available?
It's no longer available.
Okay.
But it will be available soon.
Good. We're looking forward to that. Now, there is a strong reforestation program with a large uptake of plantations in the state. What is the idea behind this, and how would it impact the environment?
Well, what we are doing with what the state is doing with the afforestation program, I don't know if you are familiar with the state of our forest. What Mr. Governor did, he brought in 2 consultants, one from the UK and one from England, and we took stock of our forest assets to determine the state of our forest. And the report now revealed to us that most of our estates are so badly degraded.
You said you're from where? UK?
UK and in Germany.
Okay.
Pro forests and fine forests. You know, one is pro forest, one is fine forest. The one from the UK is pro forest, the one from Germany is fine forest. So I personally went around the forest with them, and we saw the state of our forest, and we found that they were about 70% degraded. They have been ravaged. So what they now did was to categorize the forest. So the part that is so badly degraded cannot be converted back into forest. Part that is degraded, but over time we can reforest them, and the part that is still mainly natural forest.
Okay.
So what we now decided to do was to take that part that is so badly degraded and can no longer be turned into forest, turn them over for agricultural use. However, if we give you 1 hectare of that land, you will now give you 25% in the part that you can reforest and turn back into forest to reforest.
Oh.
If we allocate 4 hectares to you now for your agricultural purpose,
Yeah.
in the part that is so badly degraded that we can no longer turn into forest, but the part that we can still turn into forest but need work,
Yeah.
will give you 1 hectare. So while you are cultivating this 4 hectares for agricultural purpose,
We'll give you 1/4.
we'll give you
1/4. A quarter,
Yeah.
yes.
We'll give you a quarter on this side for you to reforest. Why the governor will not charge you for allocating this to you, you have to spend that resources reforesting.
So you have to give back.
You have to give back. So that's what gave birth to our forestry commission.
Okay.
So the governor is setting up a forestry commission, and the forestry commission will be in charge of ensuring that that policy is enforced, and they are going to monitor that aspect of it.
Is that the forest regeneration?
Yeah, that's the forest regeneration.
Okay.
Yeah, foresting.
Okay, now
So
how...
okay, put it another way. Why you are using these 4 hectares for agricultural purpose,
You have to
You
regenerate
must regenerate
Thus-
a quarter
of-
on this other side.
Okay, now how is government planning on securing carbon credit to manage more of the state's forest cover?
Well, like I said, all of these are embedded within the new forestry commission that will make sure that government policy in terms of carbon, or in terms of reforest, or in terms of regeneration, is the policies are being adhered to. All of that is going to be regulated by the Forestry Commission.
Okay.
That's the whole purpose of setting up the Forestry Commission.
Okay. Now, what are the economic benefits of the incursion of produce processors in the state, particularly the Duffield Primer Group, which is building an ethanol plant?
Well, I didn't want to mention Duffield. Not that I didn't want to mention them. I didn't want to bore you with all the investors.
No, it's not boring.
That have indicated interest in the state, and I'm glad that you even know that Duffield is building an ethanol plant in Ovia. That's one of our investors that we attracted.
Thank you.
And they are doing a cassava project in Ovia, and also an oil palm plantation.
Okay.
Well, they are part of our investors here in the States, and I think we as a state are happy that they are investing here, and they are building their ethanol plant, which is part of the state industrialization program. And I know they are also trying to be part of our oil palm program. That's the ESOP. And it's probably going to be about a year or so before their plant is ready in Novia, from what I can from the last conversation I had with them. And I don't see how they can impact in the community negatively, given the part that they signed with us in terms of CSR is concerned. And we haven't had any complaints from the community as far as their operation is concerned.
Okay. Now, I think we'll just take our last question now and say, what are the 3 projects that you think are sufficient to sell the re-election message of the governor to the electorate and, of course, the farmers?
Well, there's no gainsaying that we as a people are not aware that the world is going through some trying times. And like they say, when the going gets tough, the tough gets going.
Only the tough gets going.
For me, I particularly, for one, think that at this point in our lives, at this point where we are as a nation and as a state, we need a leader that is visionary, that has the capacity to expand the economic base wide enough for all of us to be able to play in it. And I think the governor possessed that quality.
Okay.
In the area where I have worked with him, which is agricultural production,
Yeah.
I can see the encouragement that it gave my office. Even sometimes when it looks gloomy and down, he will say, Joe, you have to keep going. When the communities are not cooperating at times, you send a contractor to a community, you think you have aggregated people in the community for them to farm there. Sometimes when the contractors take their dozers to the farm, the community will come and stop them. What is the issue? We are not properly carried along. You didn't give us money. At first, I didn't understand what properly carried along was. Eventually, they now said, no, they need money.
Oh, because you're an Americana.
They need money. I'm like, wait a minute. The government is not looking to profit from here. Somebody sat down, sent somebody to identify you as farmers, and he wants to increase your production capacity. Why would you stop such a laudable program coming to your immediate community just because you are not getting something for yourself? I didn't understand it for the longest time, but now I can deal with it better. But when I first started, those were some of the obstacles that was almost making me give up and say.
But did you give them the money?
No.
So what did you do?
We did, what I now did was to change strategy and start doing what is called FPIC, Free, Prior, and Informed Consent, where I will go to the community that we are going to use the land, and first of all, gather the community leaders and all of them and sensitize them on what we are about to do. And tell them it's either they participate or they nominate people to participate, but on one condition, that whoever they nominate or for them to participate, they have to be actual farmers. We don't want political farmers.
Good.
So when I adopted that method, things became a bit easier.
Okay, now that you've just mentioned one of the projects, I said 3. Now, could you just go into other areas? I said, mention like 3 major projects now. You'll be dealing with farms now. Not necessarily agriculture. You could delve into other areas.
Well, I would just touch on them. I wouldn't really.
No, just briefly.
Yeah.
Just.
You know, I mean, you see what the governor have done with education, with basic education. You know, I knew he got it right when he said he will not take the top-bottom approach. Rather, he will take the bottom-up approach. You know, we are who we are today because our education foundation was right. Okay, I went to at some point I was in private school for 1 year between 1973 and 1974, but for the rest of my life, primary school life, I went to public school. I went to government school, Uromi. From there, I went to Amota here in Benin. That was the only private school that I attended for 1 year. I left there, I went to Akpekpe Primary School in Auji.
Oh, yeah?
And I left there, I went to Etulu Primary School in Igara.
Igara.
So, most of my primary school life was public school. From there, I went to high school. I was able to compete. From my high school, I went to Yaba College of Tech.
High school, that means secondary school?
Secondary school.
Uh-huh.
After secondary school, I went to Yaba College of Tech. From Tech, I went to America. And in America, I was able to compete, and I was able to compete well. I mean, I remember the first day I went to University of Baltimore is a predominantly white school.
White school.
My first day in class, my first week, I didn't understand what was going on. I would sit in class, a white boy, the seat next to me, to my right would be empty, to my left would be empty, and the white boy would walk into the class, or a white girl, they would not sit on that seat, they would go and share a seat
with the white folks,
with another white person, because they didn't want to sit next to a black guy. But when we did our first exam, because in the US, after 3 weeks, they'll give you a test of what you have learned in the last 3 weeks.
An assessment.
So when they gave us a test, they will give you 5 bonus questions. So I got 100/5 over 100/5. And they soon realized that there's somebody in the class that got 105/105. They were looking for that individual. They now found out that it was me. All of a sudden, they wanted to form study group. And everybody wanted me to be in their group. But just yesterday, they didn't want to sit next to me. I was able to compete that way because I had the right foundation. But when I came back to this country, say 2002, 2003, where things had totally collapsed, the educational system, even the building, were worse than modern day poultry or piggery. If you put a child through that path, you have given that child the path that I travel. You would have given that child the recipe to fail. The government that came on board, which was the APC government as it then was, did something, renovated, the Red Rule revolution. Then Governor Obaseki came and said, you can't have content without character. You can't have fancy building without having people to impart knowledge. So let me start cleaning up this wrath from the beginning. Started from primary 1, 2, 3. Train the teachers, digitize their learning process, today the rest is history. I think he's now done with primary 1 through primary 6. He's now going to now do what, well, when I went to school, it was class 1 to class 5. I think they call it SS1.
GS 1 to 3, SS 1 to 3.
I think he's doing GS 1 to 3 now, whatever. So it's cleaned up the system gradually. Yeah. And if it continues like this, my belief is that we'll be where we used to be, where we used to compete academically when we were in Midwest or Bender State. Okay. You know, then if you now look at the area of land use and land ownership in the state,
GIS.
It used to be that GIS. It used to be that a plot of land would be sold to about 3, 4, 5 people
or more.
Or more, and our judicial system was clogged up with land dispute cases. But again, he came in, did his magic, and that whole process is cleaned up now. You know, so for me, I think the governor adopted a scientific approach to governance. Okay. And if he's allowed to continue, he will put the state on the path of prosperity. Okay. And whoever comes behind him will be the one that will enjoy that will get the credit for whatever foundation that he's laying today.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you very much, Joe Okojie. We'll take our last break now. We'll come back. We'll just take 1 or 2 comments from our page. Please stay with us.
Governor Obaseki carry give us for where we sit down. First of all, we thank God we give am that sense we take say poor people dey for Edo State. We also specially thank the SA because we know na him call this Warake, take him leg, go enter our forest. When he shake our hand, not be like this we did before, all of us we call the China. When he shake our hand, he say, who got this? I will say, now our own. Now they call this trees, now we say, now we. Say, government will do something about it. We think that play as usual for Nigeria. The surprise they say those as they come, make they call clear of this land. And the matter we did it today. Last year, now they start up. The farm rights, they bring everything for us after they clear. They bring tractors. For Warake, plenty tractors. They call do plow, harrow, carry chemicals, come give us about 2 trailers. Worth millions of naira. This is a joke. Now so we see rice they grow, the rice we never see before. They say na 3 months rice. Through the rice count 1, 2, 3, 3 more rice don't mature. What that shall never happen. Now so we take harvest last year.
You're welcome back to the program, the last segment of the program. Now, Joe, we have a few questions, but I think we just may be able to take one. This one is coming from Osaro Nojimu. His tweet is from Germany. He says, borrowing tractors and paying for it is a waste of money. Can we buy used machines? We have so many machines, including the ones for the road constructions. Obaseki should do business with me. I am based in Germany, Stuttgart. If you are interested, Mr. Governor Obaseki, inbox me for business, and my number is available. Or you can come and see me for yourself in Germany. We'll have the good machines here, and we use all kinds of machines. The choice is yours. Yes, that is from Germany.
I guess you would have to get the governor's concurrence on that. I can't make that decision.
Okay.
But what I do know is that the state cannot invest in used equipment.
Okay.
They have to buy brand new if they are going to invest in equipment.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And this one is coming from Festus Onokulo. He says, as you said, you don't need a godfather. All you need to do is call his office. No middleman. All you need is to come to government house and your problem of unemployment is solved. He didn't say a problem of unemployment. He says if you are a farmer, a real farmer, all you need is your BVN tied to a phone number and a name that matches your BVN. I think I recall that very well. Okay. And I think another person said, what are the policy security for these farmers? What are the, I don't know where, I don't, what are the policy security for these farmers? Maybe he wants to see if there is security in terms of probably the money that you are giving to the farmers. Maybe that is what he's talking about. I don't know.
When I spoke about the CROG, I don't recall talking about insurance. We also
you didn't talk about insurance.
The farmers are insured against yield in case there's we get what is called yield index insurance for them in case there's drought and the yield falls below expectation, or there's a natural disaster in terms of flood and fire. They have, we have insurance that protect against that.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, I think that is much we can take on today's edition of the program. But for subsequent editions, this is the phone number that you may be able to reach us. 0905 170 2571. 0905 170 2571 for subsequent editions of this program. So we'd like to say a big thank you to Joe Okojie, the Special Advisor to Governor Godwin Obaseki on Agriculture, Forestry and Food Security, for coming on the program.
Thank you for having me, Abiba Oyege Oriareho.
Thank you. Where he spoke on aquaculture, crop production, animal husbandry, and of course, the Edo State oil palm program. On behalf of everybody that has contributed to this program behind the scene, my name is Habiba Oyege Oriareho. See you soon.
No man is God, Obaseki, our governor, forward ever, backward never. Let's go further together. Godwin Obaseki, Obaseki, is the right candidate for Edo. Vote our man up. Oh yeah, 4+4 equals to continuity. Oh yes. Dogba, Obaseki, continue your work. You do Obe Stadium renovation. Even with the do best, plenty achievement for your time. Oh, our life will done better. Obaseki Ashaibu, now them be the winning team. Godwin Obaseki,